Hi everyone, welcome to my channel and to this time-lapse version of the gorgeous Paddy the Boxer in soft pastel. It's been a while since I painted a boxer actually, so I was really excited about this one, and I hope that you enjoy seeing this come together here in time-lapse. There will be some full-length tutorials coming out over on my Patreon channel, but if you enjoy this here, as always, please do show me some support and hit that subscribe button. This piece is on the brown pastel matte paper and it's 16 inches by 12 inches. I knew from I first saw this reference image that it was going to be quite a challenge. If you've watched any of my videos, you'll know that I always find long and tangled grass quite the challenge. But I really loved the reference image and how the grass kind of envelops Paddy. It's such a vibrant set of greens surrounding this lovely red-brown dog, and of course that also works very nicely in a painting because we're making use of some complementary colours. So it's actually the perfect colour of background for this type of a dog, and rather than simplify it, sometimes I'll see a complicated background and I'll really just go for all of that detail because it's worth it in the end. One thing I did do was simplify the top area of the painting, so you can see the grass that I've started up at the top there is slightly more blurred than in the reference photo. And this is not only to save myself some time on painting extra blades of grass, it's also to give us more of a sense of the distance or the depth within the painting. It also simplifies the background a little bit just around Paddy's face, which really helps the detail in his face take priority in this part of the painting. So a beautiful type of face to work on. I really love all of these types of wrinkles and the lovely warm colours that are in Paddy's coat. And of course, boxers are such expressive animals, really big eyes, very expressive faces. It's a breed that I really love. My sister used to have one and I absolutely adored that dog. Such a lovely personality and extra cute. So I was delighted to get painting a boxer. As I said, it's been quite a few years. Sometimes you get a lot of one breed to paint when you do pet commissions, and there may be breeds that you never get asked to paint. I certainly have a selection of breeds that I seem to get asked to paint quite often. So more than happy to take on the challenge of lovely Paddy. And you can see that I'm also bringing in some purples and blue violets, especially on his darker areas, so on some of those black areas. And when a pet portrait is set outside, I will often bring in blues and purples because what we're getting is often the reflected light coming from the sky. No matter what it is that you're painting, you're often likely to find colours bouncing around from the surroundings. So big expressive eyes. And again, I'm making use of some blues in the reflections on the eyes because again, we're getting the sky reflected here. So I'm always thinking about how to use my colours to reflect what is actually going on with the light and shade. What are Paddy's surroundings doing to the colours on his coat, the reflections in his eyes, And as you'll see in just a moment, all of the little reflections on his muzzle too. And this is something that I am constantly talking about in my tutorials, no matter what the subject matter. The thing that I'm actually really painting is often the light. And the light is really the main subject. And whatever it happens to be bouncing off, that is just like a mirror for all of the light surrounding. And this directs all of my colour choices. And it's something that I do talk about a lot in my tutorials, as it's something I've had to work on over the years. This did not come naturally to me in the early days of doing pet portraits. So my use of colour is probably the main thing that I have worked most on over the years. Now, I had a few people ask me, especially when seeing this one come together, why I work in small sections like this rather than blocking in the whole dog from the start. Because you can see, even with my background, I've just worked a certain distance down the painting and then started on the dog's face. And from there, I'm also kind of working from top to bottom. And while I do this with my pet portraits, there are times that I do more of a blocking in all over the painting. That will be usually when I'm working on a landscape or something where I really see the benefit of blocking in the entire piece at once. Whereas when I'm working on a pet portrait, you can see how much detail there is in the face, and I just find it helpful to be able to lean on the blank bits of paper where I haven't added any pigment yet. For me, the two methods get me to exactly the same outcome. I can see my values these days well enough to be able to work in sections. The main benefit of blocking in the image right over is that you can really judge your values, and you have lots of parts of the painting to compare against each other. But it doesn't really make any difference to me because I can just see the values nice and clearly these days. And so it doesn't really make any difference which way I do it. If you're just starting out, you might find the blocking in technique quite helpful if you're struggling to see the values or use the correct values in your painting. But to be honest, sometimes people say that there's a wrong way to do something, and I just disagree with that. There are different ways to do things. For sure, some things make life a bit harder, but for me, the way I do something is usually trying to make life a little easier. So, like I said, in the case of detailed pet portraits, I tend to work from top to bottom, mainly so that I can lean my hand on clean paper and work on all of those little important details on the face. And in this case, the reason that I didn't work anymore at the grass is because I usually take little breaks from working on the grass. Analysing lots of tangled grass tends to really exhaust me, so I like to split that part of the painting up and take plenty of breaks. And then here, right in the foreground, where we get really long tangled blades of grass coming right over Paddy, it makes sense that I would have the dog painted first. And then now I am bringing these vibrant green blades of grass right over his paws, sticking up in front of his body. I really want to create the impression that he is really sunken into the grass. But the grass takes me a little while. It's something that I just chip away at little by little. The most important thing is to create some of the darkness in at the roots of the grass, pretty much like when I'm painting fur. I'm thinking about the darkness that will contrast all of the lighter areas. And sometimes what really helps me when the grass is quite complicated like this is to get some of the most prominent blades of grass blocked in. So you can see over on the left side there, before I've even brought in any of my darker colours, I've kind of just blocked in some of the thickest and most prominent bits of grass that I want to be very visible. And then I'm just really filling in little gaps. So I'm not necessarily trying to create every single blade of grass here exactly how it is in the reference. What I'll do is go for the most prominent bits of grass, but then in the little gaps in between, you can see that's what I'm doing here, just going back and filling in those little gaps really. And those don't have to be exactly like the reference. So just by taking my time, I do eventually create something that looks like the reference and has the same kind of tangled complexity to it. So maybe I'm just getting more used to painting grass, but I actually really enjoyed this one. Normally grass is a little bit of a struggle, but I absolutely loved doing this piece from beginning to end, and I hope that you've enjoyed seeing it come together here. If you'd like to see some full-length tutorials on certain parts of this piece, come and check me out over on Patreon. I've got a huge library of tutorials there already, including lots and lots of different dog breeds. But thanks very much for watching this here. Please do remember to hit subscribe, and until next time, happy pasteling.